Hi friends, we'll discuss the third part of India-China relations, that is dynamics and vicissitude of relations in the 21st century between India and China. Between India and China. So we have observed the historical, age-old cultural relations between India and China. We understood the evolution of the boundary and also the different notions of the boundary and the conflicts around the boundary and the confidence building measures and boundary agreement between India and China. Now in the 21st century, again this discussion has continued. For some years there was no much disturbance along the Indo-China border, but in recent years China is creating lot of disturbances in the Indo-China border. Actually, in the globalized world, in the 21st century, India and China becoming more stronger. India and China becoming more stronger economically, politically, culturally. They are becoming more stronger. They are reaching to a position where they can influence even the world politics. And the world has become completely an Asia-centric world. Now the world countries are looking into Asia. So in the Asian region, obviously China and India is having strong presence, and they are going to completely decide the things in the Asian region, perhaps in the world region. So that is why many people are arguing like India and China should cooperate with each other to bring a strong Asia or to decide the world economics and world politics. And we wanted to even promote more cultural people to people relations, trade aspects, and even the trade relations are also increased. So when we are doing better on this front, when there is a necessity to cooperate with each other, but still some of the problems that India and China again facing on their border side. And you have already understood the complexity of border, and this border issues has become the center of the controversy for India and China relations. Sometimes India said like, okay, let the border, maybe let it be like that, but we will continue other relations. When you are cooperating in the other relations, China is trying to focus on expanding the border and expanding the border to the Indian side. So that is why this border issue has become the center stage for the whole discussions between India and China. Now this is the timeline from 1998 Rajiv Gandhi, 1988 Rajiv Gandhi to P.V. Narasimha Rao, and when P.V. Narasimha Rao was travelled to China, and during the P.V. Narasimha Rao time we have accepted this LAC, and after that it is the Atal Bihari Vajpayee, in the 1993 P.V. Narasimha Rao when visited, we accepted this concept of LAC. In the year 2003 when Atal Bihari Vajpayee visited, we have said like India will accept Tibet as the internal, that means integral part of China. So during the 2003 visit, India has upheld one China policy. One China policy. So this one China policy is now in news because China is saying like Taiwan, Hong Kong should belongs to China. When it comes to the Taiwan, India has been maintaining a consistent policy of one China policy in case of Taiwan, because India is one of the first few countries who recognized the PRC as the China. When you are recognizing PRC as China means, then obviously Taiwan is included in China. So in Taiwan we don't have a second voice, the only single stand. But when it comes to the Tibet, in the year 2003, we categorically said like, we are saying like Taiwan Tibet is an integral part of China, that we said in the year 2003. And after that 2013, and we have signed some agreement in the year 2015. Anyhow, I'll give that agreements name. But what happened during this 2006, after 2005, in the 2006, there was a considerable change happened in the Chinese attitude towards the Indo-China border, towards the India-China border. What is that thing is, that is shift in the China stance toward the eastern border, toward the eastern border. So what is that eastern border? Eastern border is the McMahon line or the Arunachal Pradesh. Anyhow, now we are considering whole it as an LAC. Now in the year 2006, China started claiming the whole Arunachal Pradesh. China started claiming this whole Arunachal Pradesh, this whole Arunachal Pradesh, China is started claiming. China started claiming whole Arunachal Pradesh. And China went to such an extent that even they have started issuing some stapled visas to the people of Arunachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. Anyhow, for Jammu and Kashmir, they have stopped it. Since then onwards, India has started omitting the reference to the one China policy in its policy towards the China. So that is one thing you need to understand. But anyhow, when these issues are happening, now in the present day, what are all the different relations that India and China is maintaining, and how India and China is facing the border problems even today, and what are the areas for possible cooperation where India and China is cooperating, and what are the conflicts that India and China facing, that we will discuss in this video. So this is about the 21st century, that means the present day world. Now when you are looking into India and China relations, most of the times adversarial relations only dominating the friendly relations. India-China is having friendly relations, but most of the times India-China relations are adversarial in nature because of the complexity involved in its own relations. Suppose I will tell you one example. The border dispute is a very important issue. You understood like western border, middle border and eastern border. Middle border, I said only little amount of disputes, there is no much problem. But western side there is no conceptualization itself, and the eastern side sometimes they are claiming like the whole Arunachal Pradesh is belongs to them. Whole Arunachal Pradesh is belongs to them, that is what they are claiming. Now during in the last few years, the Chinese troops started entering into the Indian border. It's not only Indian border. China since 1950, they are constructing the infrastructure in the border areas. That Johnson line, that what we discussed during this 1865 British survey of India, we have drawn the Johnson line. China has constructed a road from the Karakoram range, Karakoram in the northern Kashmir, in the northern Kashmir, you are having the Karakoram range, and this side you are having the Tibet. They have constructed a road between Karakoram range and Tibet, which passes parallel through the Johnson line, and that road is southern part of Johnson line. That means you are considering it as a border, but their road passes through the south of this Johnson line. This happened in 1950. You can see how much infrastructure that they are constructing, and they are constructing massive infrastructure. They are amassing huge force, and now even they are constructing the shelters for the armed forces. Now even they are constructing the villages, new villages and new areas. They are constructing new villages and new areas. That is how China is building up its massive infrastructure. Anyhow, Government of India has also started. We are also doing some sort of infrastructural creation and also strengthening our military operational efficiency, especially in the northern borders. Now, so this border issue has become so complex. I will give you some of the important aspects like how we have fought with the Chinese forces in different areas. See, I will show you. There is an area called Demchok. There is an area called Demchok. Something like the Demchok is something like here. So in the year 2014, there was a problem in the Demchok area. That means they tried to enter into this. Why actually this conflict is happening in this western border? Because there is no clear-cut demarcation of the border, and again I am drawing that the patrolling point concept here. So between the Karakoram and your Pangang Lake, between Karakoram and your Pangang Lake, and after that you will have the Chumar sector. Here you are having something like Chumar sector. So between the Karakoram and Chumar sector, around 65 patrolling points are there between India. For India, 65 patrolling points are there. 65 patrolling points means the points are something like this, somewhere. So we are not presenting here because of the terrain, but somewhere we are here, but we will go and we will patrol every time. I already told you a single patrolling point sometimes may be patrolled by two. When both the militaries of both the countries, when they try to patrol the same patrolling point and they come to each other like this, that led to confrontation. And that is the reason why sometimes the confrontation is happening in India-China border. So why confrontation is happening? Because there is no clear-cut demarcation boundary. There are only patrolling points are there. Patrolling points are need to be patrolled by the different forces, and when they try to patrol the same point, and when they are completely faced to each other, then there is a conflict, and that led to loss of lives and loss of lives of the military personnel. That is how conflicts are happening in this border. And one thing was happened in the year 2014. In the Demchok area, and in the year 2017, that was some conflict happened in Doklam region, because suddenly they shifted that entire thing to this eastern sector. So this Sikkim is having some border, and this is the Bhutan. After the Bhutan, you will get the McMahon line. See, this is the tri-junction of India, China and Bhutan. This is a tri-junction point. Here you are having a region called Doklam region. So this Doklam region is very important for India. Very important for India. Why it is important means it is so close to this chicken neck. So that means this is a very narrow area through which entire Indian mainland is connected with the northeastern India. Suppose if they occupy this region, then it will be very easy for the China to enter. If China enters here, then China can cut the link between the northeastern part of India to the mainland of India. That is why when China tried to build up its infrastructure, when the China is trying to enter, India has acted on behalf of the Bhutan, because this territory belongs to Bhutan. This is a conflict between Bhutan and China. Why India entered? Because Bhutan and India is having some friendly agreement. That means India-Bhutan Friendship Treaty in the 1949 we have signed it, but later in the year 2007 we renewed it, and according to that India will protect the sovereignty, security of the Bhutan. For that reason we enter. That means China, if it is possible, they try to enter, they try to directly confront it with the India. Sometimes they are coming through the Bhutan. Now they are also coming through the Pakistan. I will explain when I am explaining CPEC corridor. But anyhow, this is happened in 2017. And after that, in the year 2020, there was a Galvan Clash. So Galvan Clash happened in the year 2020. And in this, the Galvan, here it is the Galvan Valley, here patrolling point 14. Here you are having the patrolling point 14. When it comes to the hot spring, it is the patrolling point 15. I said total 65 patrolling points are there. When it is Depsang, it is patrolling point 13. So patrolling point 13, patrolling point 14, patrolling point 15. And if you are looking into this Gogra Valley, that is patrolling point 17. Somewhere here patrolling point 17. So during the 2020, what happened is Indians tried to patrol the patrolling point in the Galvan Valley. So Galvan Valley is something like this. This is a Galvan river that originates in the Tibet, and they will come and they will join with the Shiok river in India. And here it is a patrolling point PP14. This is a flash point. Indians tried to patrol this because earlier Indians used to patrol this point also. Now Chinese are not allowed Indians to patrol this point. That led to the clash. That means China every year they wanted to move ahead. Thereby expanding their own area of control. Thereby they are stopping the Indians to patrol the points hitherto they used to patrol. That is what we need to understand. So, and it's not only happened here, it's happened with the other hot spring area, Gogra Valley. See, if you see here, you can understand. This happened, we are in Galvan Valley, this happened in Hot Spring, this has happened in Pangangso, this happened in Depsang, everywhere it happened. So they are advancing it, because you don't know where is the boundary, you know only patrolling points. But what you are doing is, you are advancing since 1993 after recognizing the LAC, and now you are stopping the Indians to patrol their own points. And that is how led to the loss of 20 Indian soldiers, and we don't know officially what is the casualty to the Chinese side, but they haven't revealed it. So this is how that is happening on the western side. Now we need to understand, like, this is a very complex thing. Now again we are discussing on this since the 2022 to 2022, around 16 rounds are completed. We wanted China to move away from that position, whatever the patrolling points now they are controlling. We wanted China to move to the position of 2020 when that Galvan incident happened. And during this discussion, in some areas we are able to succeed, in some areas we are not able to succeed. Still negotiations are happening. But India said, like, no Indian territory was occupied by the Chinese. The point is, no Indian territory was occupied by the Chinese. The reason is we don't know where is this Indian territory. This is all the perception LAC. But the point is, did really Chinese occupied the India's perceived LAC? Yes. Chinese have occupied a territory which India is considering as their own LAC, that they have occupied. But is there any Indian territory? Indian territory was something which we are control, whatever the control that we are having. So this is India. This is something an LAC. We don't have the full control. We need to only patrol it. We are earlier used to patrol, but they are not allowing us to patrol it. That means that whatever the perceived area or whatever the notion of LAC, that is occupied by them. But some people are arguing that this whole area belongs to you. Every year they are moving so close to your boundary, and you are saying like it's an LAC, it's not your border. Do you think that they are going to discuss the whole issue which they have already occupied? It's not possible. They are not going to do it. So that means, though we are saying like, no, it's not the Indian controlled territory. It's not, see, whatever the area that Chinese are occupying is not an Indian controlled territory, but it is India's territory. It should belongs to India. But we are saying like, no, India has not lost any territory. See, you haven't lost anything, but the whole thing belongs to you only. Anyway, you are losing it. So this is a difference you must understand. So this is a very complex nature of India-China border. Because of lack of clarity. So they are having actual control, we are having actual control. They are expanding their own area of actual control. And this is happened in the 2020 in the Galvan Valley. Now when it comes to, I just now explained about the Bhutan, now I will explain the Pakistan. See, this is the Pakistan occupied Kashmir that Pakistan has occupied in the year 1947, and from that in the year 1963 the Pakistan has given some territory to the China, and India is seriously objected to that. This territory belongs to me, and from that you have given this territory to China. Now China is constructing a project like China-Pakistan economic corridor from this. India is again raising serious objections. So that means China want to enter into our own region because of this complex border. On the eastern side, China is claiming whole Arunachal Pradesh, and through the Bhutan they wanted to enter the Doklam, and through this Pakistan they are influencing our own region, because here you are having the Aksa, here you are having this Siachen glacier, highest glacier. It's very important. Now it is under the control of India. So Siachen glacier is very important to protect the Indian security from the Chinese entry or from the Chinese activities. Anyhow, that is with us. But you see how China is trying to enter into India from both Pakistan side, from the Bhutan side, and from the western border, from the eastern border. And it's not only confined to that, it is also trying to entering through the waters. I'll come to that little bit late. So this is something related to the border disputes even today in the 21st century. That means even today we are facing this problem. So border disputes and border incursions, whether it is in Nakula Pass, whether it is in Nathula Pass, whether it is in Chola Pass, whether it is Changlam Pass, like these are the different passes on eastern side, and the western side you can see Depsang Plain, Galvan Valley, Hot Spring area, Pangang Lake, Chumar, Demchok, Depsang. These are all the different areas. These are the conflict points between India and China. But when it comes to the eastern side, you don't have this problem of patrolling points. It is a boundary, but they wanted to enter into through some of the passes. So I hope you understood this border complexity of India and China. Now we have signed two different agreements in the year 2012 and 2013. 2012 and 2013. 2012 is Agreement on Working Mechanism for Consultation Coordination. In 2013, we signed an agreement called Border Defense Cooperation. Border Defense Cooperation. So these are the two agreements we signed, but even we signed lot of agreements, there is no much progress. There is no much progress because no settled lines on which both are agreed. So we have come to an agreement called LAC. We signed it in 1993, but China is not respecting it. China is not respecting it, and the perception of the China side boundary is different to that of India side boundary. So this is all leading to this border conflict, and this border conflict has become the bone of contention between India as well as China. So this is one important aspect you need to remember. Okay, I'll just move away from this border disputes. The next issue is the stapled visas issue. So stapled visas means initially it was started giving in the year 2009 to both the people from the Arunachal Pradesh, people from the Jammu and Kashmir. That means when they try to visit China, they say like, no, why you are visiting with visa? Visa is not required because you are people of China. That is what they said. But later they have withdrawn that for the Jammu and Kashmir, but still for Arunachal Pradesh they are continuing. So this is another issue, we need to sort it out. Next, another issue between India and China is, it is related to the bilateral trade. This is very important. Bilateral trade. When it comes to the bilateral trade, India and China are cooperating well in this bilateral trade. India and China is cooperating well in bilateral trade. That means when it comes to the imports and exports. See, in the year 2001, 2002, 2003, India was the net exporter to the China, but unfortunately in the last almost 17 years, in the almost 17 to 18 years, India is the net importer of Chinese products. Net import of the Chinese products. Here I am writing some numbers so that you can understand. I am writing from 2017-18, 17-18, 18-19, 19-20, 20-21, 21-22. So in this I am writing total trade, and I am writing the deficit. The deficit means what is the difference between how much you are importing and how much you are exporting. So the trade in 2017-18 is $89.7 billion, whereas the deficit is something like $63 billion. You can imagine how much deficit it is. And in the year 2018-19, it was $87 billion of total trade and $53 billion of deficit. In the year 1920, $81.8 billion of total trade and $46 billion of deficit. In 2020-21, $86.4 billion of trade, in that $44 billion of deficit. That means last year 21-22, around $125 billion of trade, more than $75 billion of deficit. So the deficit to some extent reduced but suddenly increased, and it happened during the COVID-19. And in spite of this much border conflict, the trade between India and China is growing, but unfortunately we are importing more from the China rather we are exporting. So wherever we are cooperating, it is something heartening the India itself. It will heartening India itself. And when it comes to the import from the China, we are all aware that the major imports from the China are like chemicals, mineral fuels, fertilizers, electrical machinery, electronics, computers, iron and steel, active pharma ingredients like raw materials to the pharmaceutical industry, nuclear machinery, medical equipments, plastic, like that. Though we are importing some of the finished products, but most of the imports from the China are the either raw material or intermediary goods. So to some extent it is good. When we are importing raw material and intermediary goods, to some extent it is better because we are not importing completely a finished good. But whereas in case of electronics and some other aspects, we are importing the finished good, but majority of the items we are importing raw materials and components and industrial items rather than the finished item. Okay, and telecom sector items also we are importing. When it comes to the export, it is something like iron and steel, cotton yarn, ores, organic chemicals, gems and jewelry, refinery products. These are some of the items that India is exporting. But anyhow, we are maintaining huge deficit. With China. It is not at all good. And even if you see the bilateral trade, suddenly it increased, and China is one of the major trading partner of India. To some extent we are trying to reduce our import because Chinese products are something like dumping. So China's products are so cheap, so they will dump their product. And I'll tell you, in some areas like active pharma ingredients, like electronics, we are over depending on China. In some cases, we are over depending on China. Perhaps that is not good for the country. When it comes to the active pharma ingredients and electronics, Government of India has already started its own missions, but we don't know how it will work. But yes, in some cases, we are completely over depending on China for this. So this is something related to the bilateral trade between India and China. Now I'll come to bilateral investments. This is also one important area because how much Chinese investment is entering into India. When it comes to the investment in trade, China is one of the major partner. But whereas when it comes to the investments, no, it's not, because if I have the number from 2000 to 2021, during 2000 to 2021, the FDIs, I am not talking about the equity investments in stock market, that's all different. When it comes to the FDI, it is total around like $2.45 billion, that's it. $2.45 billion in this period of 2000 to 2021, and it ranked the 20th position. When it comes to the FDIs of foreign countries in India, China is at the 20th position, and in the overall FDIs, the China share is only 0.43%. In investment, there is no much problem. But whatever the companies that they are coming, especially these companies related to electronics, telecom, like the companies like Xiaomi, Oppo, Huawei, Alibaba, these are some of the companies that they are coming. But the major problem with these investments is it is very difficult to establish a relation between the Chinese companies and Chinese state. Already Western companies have abandoned this Huawei into these 5G trials. In India also we haven't allowed this Huawei company to participate in the 5G trials last year. And recently we have been finding like some of the Chinese companies like Vivo, Oppo, they are grossly misuse the Indian laws. They are involved in the tax evasion. They are participating some illegal trade practices. And there was IT rights and other departments are also raid on those companies, and because of that even they don't want to continue their business. They wanted to downsize their business because there is no much transparency in Chinese investments. There is no much transparency, and it's not only telecom, even some higher education, small finances, sometimes they are influencing directly, sometimes they are bringing their capital indirectly. So we don't know exactly what is the motive behind them. Is it China's government is behind them? Is it China government is pushing them to invest in some of the adversary countries like India? So we are having lot of problems. That's why even prior to this Galvan Valley clashes of 2020, India has made compulsory of the security clearance, made compulsory of security clearances for the investments that are coming from the countries which are sharing the border with India. That means if investments are coming from with Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, China, then Ministry of Home Affairs must scrutinize them. Normally the security clearances is only applicable to some of the defense related projects, but now they wanted a security clearance for every project. Because of that we are able to filter lot of investments from the China. So this is something related to investment, and even around 270 plus applications we have completely banned in India, And apart from that, Chinese are investing in startups and your equity markets that anyhow you can't stop it. So they are doing investment in that. So this is something related to the investment relations between India and China. But anyhow, transparency is a serious problem related to this. Next, the another important thing is India-China hydrological data sharing. So what is this hydrological data sharing? The main river called Brahmaputra, and they are calling it as Yarlung Tsangpo river. It originates in the Tibetan region, and from that it will enter into China, and from Arunachal Pradesh again it enter into India, and through the Bangladesh it will enter into Bay of Bengal. China is following a philosophy called Doctrine of exclusive use of natural resources originated from their own soil. They don't allow other countries to utilize the natural resources. This is a very serious doctrine that China is following. It's not only with the river Brahmaputra or Tsangpo river, it is also following the same way with the other rivers like Mekong. They are good at blocking the river. They are good at constructing more dams, and they are shifting the water from one river basin to another river basin. And we don't know how many dams that they have constructed, and they are not releasing the water properly. Sometimes they are releasing more water that is creating lot of floods in the northeastern India, especially in Assam. So already there is actually there is some sort of informal agreement like no sharing of hydrological data. We must share, you must share, so that I can protect my own region, and you must release the water. You should not divert into the other basin, because these people are also having the right over that. These are the lower riparian states. You are the upper riparian state. Upper riparian state you can use it, but the lower riparian state people are also having some certain rights over the water. So this is one important aspect that India is facing the problem with the China related to hydrological data, because they must share. If there is an excess water, they must share. If there is a drought like condition, they must share, so that you can control the floods, and also you can maintain the high water discharge from the upper riparian state, that is China. Next, the another important area where China is creating lot of concern is the concept of string of pearls. So string of pearls means China is now entering into the Indian Ocean region, and they are constructing the ports in different countries. Ports in different countries. So for what purpose they are going to use these ports? Maybe they can bring their own armed forces, maybe they can control this whole area. If you see, if I connect it, it is something like a pearl string that is completely surrounded the India in Indian Ocean waters. So it is creating lot of security threat to the India. Security threat to the India. In Myanmar, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a Hambantota. Recently, we are all aware, in Sri Lanka, close to Hambantota, Yuan Wang Fai. They brought it, Yuan Wang Fai. They said like it is only a satellite tracking naval ship, but it can sense what is happening across a radius of 700 kilometers. So 700 kilometers means it can simply cover this much area of India. They can see what is there in this. But India has raised an objection, but they came. And during the 2014-2013, even there were reports like China has brought its nuclear submarines into this water. And now China is entering into Indian waters. This is again a serious concern for the India. And when it comes to the OBOR project, yes. And through this, from the Gadar port, yes. Again, it passes through the Pak occupied Kashmir, that is Indian territory, and China has requested India to join in this OBOR project, but India said no, we don't join in that because you are not respecting the territorial integrity. There is no transparency in your projects, and your projects are not financially stable. That means there is no financial stability, and environmentally also it is not stable. So that's why I don't join in your project, and moreover your project I am not at all agreed because it is violating my territorial integrity, because it is passes through my territory under illegal occupation of Pakistan. That is what India stands. Okay, so this is related to the string of pearls. Next, when it comes to the Pakistan, yes, Pakistan is also, we are facing lot of problem with the Pakistan because of the presence of China in the Pakistan is one thing. They are actively assisting the Pakistan, they are protecting the Pakistan, and recently there was an issue raised by India about the double standard of China and Pakistan and Afghanistan in listing of terrorists. That means when India wanted to list some terrorists at the United Nations security level who are placed in the Pakistan, who are inside the Pakistan, China is obstructing India to list those people as the international terrorists. That is somewhere India is raising its problem. So double standards of China and listing of terrorists, that is another India's problem. So this is something related to the India-China relations where we are having lot of problem. But still India and China is cooperating. So in which areas we are cooperating? So India and China are both are the members of different groups. Take the case of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Yes, India, China are members. Take the case of BRICS, our own group, both are members. And even with the BRICS, we have started a national development bank. We have launched a national development bank. Every country, that BRICS countries are having equal share, and its headquarters is at Shanghai. We have started in the year 2014. Next, Asian Infrastructural Investment Bank, which was again started by the China in the year around 2016, and the headquarters is at the Beijing, and China is the largest partner in this, and India is the second highest partner. That means around 8%, we are having the share around 8%. So almost having total 105 countries are there, and India is the largest beneficiary of the funds of AAIB, because you can use it for the infrastructural creations. Even we are getting lot of good funds from the NDB. So that means some close cooperation is there, and even at the WTO level, because India and China both are developing countries, whenever there is an issue related to the developing countries, China is cooperating with India in the WTO forum. So that means there is some sort of cooperation between India and China at a multilateral forum wherever it is possible, like SCO, BRICS or AAB or NDB or WTO. But still there are some problems are there, like China don't want India to enter into this nuclear supplier group. This is very, very important for India, but China is obstructing India's entry into this. And China want to enter into the SAARC region. But anyhow India is obstructing because China want to dominate this own SAARC region. So there are some issues are there, and even in the United Nations Security Council reform, it is China not allowing that reformation because India and China is having some issues. So that means at the international level some problems are there, some cooperation is happening. And when it comes to the South China Sea, it is because freedom of navigation, because the whole world is looking for now this concept of Indo-Pacific. So Indo-Pacific, that means Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean. China wanted to control this Indo-Pacific. It already entered Indian Ocean, and especially in its own region, in the South China Sea, it is controlling South China Sea by creating artificial islands. It is trying to control some of the countries, but now India is also entering into that region because India is going for oil explorations. India is maintaining its relations with some countries of South China Sea like Philippines and Vietnam. We are even actively cooperating with the defense relations, because when China is actively cooperating with the Pakistan, China is actively cooperating with the Sri Lanka, and by entering into the Sri Lankan waters, it is posing the threat to the India. So now India is also entering into the South China Sea and actively cooperating with the countries like Thailand, Vietnam and Philippines, and actively we are cooperating in supplying the defense equipment to them. And India is always focusing on this freedom of navigation. So every country should have a freedom to navigate, and India is also a member of quadrilateral group that include United States of America, Japan, Australia and India. So with this group, quadrilateral group, they are promoting from freedom of navigation. Thereby they wanted to reduce the influence of China in the waters. India is actively cooperating with this quad group. So that means the freedom of navigation India is preaching because India wanted to curtail the expansionist policies of China. It is a new imperialistic policies that China is following. If China is accepted everywhere, if you allow China to expand, definitely the China can do the same thing with the Indian border. That is why at the international level also India is cooperating or coordinating with other countries to reduce the expansionist policies of China. And there was another agreement called RCEP, because economically China want to join with India, but India said nothing doing, we don't join because you will dump all your cheaper products into India. We don't want to join in this. That means, but somewhere wherever the cooperation, limited cooperation is required, we are doing, but wherever India is getting a harm, definitely we are objecting it. But anyhow, the China's closeness nowadays with the Pakistan, with the Afghanistan, with Iran, they are posing serious threat. But India always wanted to regulate, or India always wanted to protect its own region by aligning with the other group, so that they can neutralize, or so that they can bring the balance of power in the Indian Ocean region and also Asia Pacific region. That is where India is more concentrating. Now apart from that, the last point is cultural relations. So though we are having this much conflict, though we are having this much complexity in our relations, but cultural relations we are maintaining good, because you know the cultural relations of India and China. You know the cultural relations of India and China. Now Indians are learning Mandarin. Indian armed forces are also learning the Mandarin because their purpose is different. When it comes to the language, when it comes to the movies, films, sports, media, yoga, Buddhism, tourism, and even sister city cooperation, sister province cooperation. That means one city will connect to the other, and so that they will try to share their experience, and so that they will try. And when it comes to the art, people to people contact, educational exchange program, you know, lot of Indians are studying in China, some Chinese students are studying in India, educational exchange program. And there is another important thing called hometown diplomacy. You have seen we have completely changed a diplomacy to a different level. So hometown diplomacy means it's an informal summit. Like Xi Jinping has arranged it in Wuhan, and Prime Minister has arranged it in Mamallapuram in Tamil Nadu. So that means hometown diplomacy, this is going well. So when it comes to the cultural aspects, we are doing well. When it comes to the youth exchanges, sharing of knowledge, sharing of culture, tourism, everything is going well. But when it comes to the strategic interest, still we are facing the problem. And recently when China is unable to yield, or when China is unable to move from the conflicted areas of the 2020 clashes of Indo-China border in the western sector, now India is giving a strong statement like, you need to abide with the 1993 agreements which you signed. You should not unilaterally disturb the LAC, and we don't allow China to disturb the LAC unilaterally. And India is so categorical that the LAC will be decided with the mutual agreement, but a unilateral adjustment of LAC is not at all acceptable. And we don't allow such things. And till that point of time, we will persuade the China. But sometimes when the issue has become so serious, we are giving a statements like this. When we are conflicting at the border, it is not that easy or that simple to continue our bilateral relations as usual or as normal. So definitely the India-China relations, though we are having age-old relation, though we have the cultural relations, though we are having the neighboring countries, though we are coordinating at the global level at different forums, but the border issue is dominating the whole Indo-China relations. And that whole border issue and the expansionist motive of the China is because the world is going to be an Asia-centric world. In that Asia-centric world, China want to build a unipolar world, that to China-centric world. That is the ambition that the China is having. And certainly we need to protect our own interest, and we need to maintain our relations, but not at the cost of security or the interest of your own country. Because you have been observing the China since 1950, how they are closely moving and how they are changing their stance and how they are unilaterally disturbing the whole border area. That is the reason why now many people are arguing that India-China relations cannot be normal unless the border situation is resolved, and if China disturbs the peace and tranquility in the border areas, it will impact the relations further. So this is something related to India and China relations, especially in the 21st century. So this is something related to dynamics and vicissitude of Indo-China relations in the 21st century. Okay, thank you.
Amrita IAS Academy.